Wonderful. Thank you very much, Benjamin. And it's very good to join all of you in Helsinki. What a great opportunity for all of us. So we've heard a lot about research. We've heard about the PhD journey going through the DTN and where that has landed some former colleagues of yours. So now I'm going to talk to you about possibilities and how you can choose to live your life in the time remaining between now and the end of your PhD. And this module was developed as a way to think creatively, not only about entrepreneurship and business, but one of my favorite topics is just thinking about how to live life freely, you know? So let's start the discussion. This program is available for free for anyone already in the DTN. And then if you have friends who want to join outside, there's a procedure for that as well. But we'll start with this. So, brief story. The question is there life outside of the PhD, right? I finished my PhD almost half a year ago now, a bit more than half a year ago now. And during the process, I remember a very insightful conversation with a colleague of mine. And I said, oh no, you know, this PhD thing, it's taken over my life. I can't handle it anymore. And then his response was, you have it backwards. Your life is your PhD. So if you're ever in the darkest moments, think about that, right? So I think that's a great way to flip my thinking. And I was like, okay, if my life is my PhD, then I shall embrace it. And embrace it I did, right? So this is me. That's my thesis. I put my face on there. I figured it's the most unmistakable way to understand that this is the right person, right? During the process of my PhD, I had the opportunity to do quite a bit of experiments along the side. And one of them is YouTube and making videos, right? So you might feel the same way. You might feel like you have your PhD research, the thing that you're supposed to do within the institution, the thing that pays the bills, but you might have this inkling of something that you want to try out, right? And that inkling, don't let it go, because it probably will stay with you until you deal with it, right? Or you act on it. So whatever that inkling is for you, this little seed of an idea of creativity that doesn't quite fit into the PhD journey, I'm going to try and help you through this program of figuring out how you can fit it into your life, right? And you know, your PhD is going to take up whatever space you allocated. So it's okay to do something else during the process that kind of limits your participation, right? So if your time agenda is open 24 hours a day, your PhD is going to take up 24 hours a day. But if you have a hobby, a sport, something else that you're doing, I'm going to argue that maybe you should have a business on the side, then your PhD would naturally shrink a bit. And paradoxically, not working on your PhD 24/7 is actually a bit healthy. But most of you probably already knew that. So my outlet was YouTube, right? And that has actually, a few of you know me from YouTube, right? And online courses, so that it worked in a way. And it has really given me some opportunities, such as even being here today with you after my PhD, right? And to do and pursue what I really love doing. So here's a traditional map. Right, this is me during my PhD, right? And imagine a lot of you are here, right? And next step was that? A postdoc, right? And then what's the light at the end of the tunnel? Where are we, most of you, headed? Ideas. What's the coveted thing that we all want as academics? Hey, there we go. Tenured professor track, right? But there's very few of those. And we think it's a straight journey, but it might take some time to get there. So while it takes some time to get there, we might explore a bit, right? And come back to it. We'll get there eventually. But in the meantime, you know, life doesn't have to be a straight line. So if you have a spark of creativity, you have an idea, perhaps it's healthy, and you might just end up pursuing that idea and avoiding tenure altogether. So that is the disclaimer, right? So the question is, how do you want to live your life, right? I remember as a kid, my PhD was on cycling. So as a kid, I remember going on bike rides, right? aimless bike rides, of just exploration and figuring out where I wanted to go. There wasn't really a thought of a trajectory, what am I going to do with my life? There was actually a huge sense of freedom, right? And I want to encourage that a bit in your life too, right? Of where did that go? Where did that sense of exploration, of there's something and I could pursue it? It's mostly kind of disappeared in my life for a bit, replaced by more of this, right? Meetings with supervisors, meetings with other colleagues, but really more of a structured way of existing. So what if you could take that memory of a kid, whether it's on a bike or exploring on foot, and bring it back a bit, right? And the question is, where do you want to go from here? So we have already the traditional trajectory, which is eventually we'll see the light at the end of the tunnel, get the full professorship. But also, the future from here has alternatives, right? Just as we have alternative narratives for the future of mobility, there are alternative narratives for the future of your life, right? So here we are, and then we go, you know, what's probable, what's the plausible, and what's the possible, right? And I think entrepreneurship is a great way to explore what is the possible. So the broadest path, right? You're not sure what is possible, but you're just giving yourself the opportunity to explore that route, right? Yet the route is the least certain. But some of you also might feel this, right? A PhD is an institution. Most jobs at big corporations, you're dealing with an institution. The government is an institution, a bureaucracy, right? So sometimes during the process of your PhD, you might feel like a square peg trying to be hammered into a round hole. Some of you don't feel this, which is fantastic. Then you're actually in the right place. But if you sometimes feel like you're in a square peg in a round hole and the institution doesn't quite want you to do what you want to do, maybe it's on the advice of your supervisor, oh, you should probably focus on your PhD. You should focus. You should focus our energy, graduate, get out of here. If you have that feeling that you are a square peg in a round hole, this might be for you. Looking for something outside of the institution. And what is entrepreneurship? I believe entrepreneurship is fundamentally about freedom, right? It's actually not really about the money. The money is what funds the freedom to do what you want. But fundamentally, it's about doing something that you believe in. It's about doing something that can change the world. And I'm going to briefly touch on 3 different ways that this can come about. And we're going to try and coach you through this journey. So 3 options here, right? So I've thought about this, and I've classified it into 3 different things. So freelancer, startup, and the intrapreneur, right? So the intrapreneur, perhaps, if you're happy already, so we're going to start from the left and go right. If you're happy with what you're doing already in your PhD, maybe the intrapreneur route is for you. So you stay within the university, and you see what the next step is, right? This could be a postdoc application. This could be new ways of promoting your organization, right? What university doesn't love more publicity, doesn't love more research being disseminated into the public, doesn't love new recruitment and sources of new students. So if you're really dedicated to your organization and you really like it in there, we're going to guide you through how to give more value to your institution. And the more value you give to your institution, if everything works out, then the more likely you're going to be hired back, right? So we're not going to talk too much about how to publish more and get more papers cited, but we're going to talk about the other ways of delivering value to your institution. Next, we'll go to freelancer, which is the one on the far right, okay? So freelancer is something fun. It's, you could call it a side gig, moonlighting, doing something outside of your PhD. For me, it was like giving videos, doing talks. I'm working on a textbook, or doing a bit of industry consulting, right? So if you're in the field of mobility, this could be doing some small consulting projects for the municipality. Sometimes they appreciate someone who's working on a PhD to give that extra level of expertise in addition to the industry expertise they have on their team, right? And finally, if you're really ambitious, if you actually are an inventor, right? And you're actually serious about doing something of your own. You believe there's value in the market. at scale to what you're doing. Maybe you want to pursue a startup, right? Building a process around a product and scaling it up, right? Building a team around you and figuring out how to finance it. So these are 3 routes. If any of these 3 routes appeal to you, then this program is probably for you, right? So this will run alongside the entrepreneurship module that you've already signed up for. And this one will basically see what we can do in the 3 routes. And at the end of the 7-month program, so in April, 7 months from now, we'll have you set up with a business. You can send your first invoice, and we'll actually have an entity, a mechanism, in which you can get paid. And what's great about getting paid is then you can take that money and do something with it, right? Which is what this is all about. So 7 months. And this journey for me is also about exploring the different bureaucracies within the EU, right? Starting a company in Estonia is not the same as starting a company in Germany. It's not the same as starting a company in Italy, right? So it's also a learning process. So I'll get to learn where in the different places of the EU, what the different processes are, and hopefully we can have someone who's done it before to help you along. Okay, so what is the program? I do a 2-minute pitch, but there's more information on the website. Basically, we're doing the double diamond. How many of you are designers here? Designers are, yeah. You've seen the double diamond. So I've thought about this way to divide it into 2 phases. So 4 phases: discover, refine. Right. So you're going to discover what this marketplace for your thing is, right? What your interests are, what your skills are. You're going to refine. You're going to figure out like who might be willing to pay for this, right? Or who your competitors are, barriers to entry. Some of this overlaps with the entrepreneurship module that you're already taking. But then it gets really exciting, right? So then we go to Munich in February, 19th to 21st. I have brochures here, so you can all sign up. I'll pass it around right after. We'll have a small workshop, and then we'll get into the execution phase, okay? Which is developing and delivering, right? Now, so the secret here is I will be your first customer, right? That's the end secret. So you're at the end of it, I'll be your first customer. You send me an invoice, and I'll pay it. It won't be a huge invoice, but it'll be a token of appreciation to get you started, right? So basically, you're going to develop what your customers want. We're going to investigate more of what's out there for you. And then you're going to deliver, which is the minimum viable product, trying to figure out also alongside your social medias, how you promote it, and also at the same time, the finances, right? So we'll also have a module of dealing with taxes, budgeting. I'm obviously not a tax consultant, but the basics are there, right? How to keep books, what's income tax, how to deal with corporate taxes, or if you're a freelancer and you don't have a corporation, then how do you want to do that? Just to explore some options with you. So this is some ideas, some pathways to live a slightly profitable life outside of your PhD, to explore whether there is a market for your knowledge. And it's a good time to begin now, because if you start exploring the market now, at the end of the PhD, the most brilliant thing you could realize is that there actually is a market for what you're doing, right? And then you're off to the races. Then perhaps the optimal future for you is that you don't have to look for a job at all, right? Because the job market is quite competitive, but if your own idea, you have a market for it, that means you can do your own thing, right? No bureaucracy involved. So I'm going to hand around cards. That's my talk. I'm going to take a couple of questions. We'll end just 35 after. Is that good? Oh, okay. All right. So this program in itself is an experiment. It's our first year doing this, so we're going to build it as we go along. Any questions on this? While you do questions, I'm going to hand some cards around. Yes, go for it.
For people that just started their PhD, think
So the question is, for people who just started their PhD, is it perhaps a bit early to sign up? No, let's start now. Let's start exploring what's out there in the market, because right now, if you've just started your PhD, you can use this as market research for your PhD and kind of figure out where the market is at and tailor your next papers. So you're probably working on first, second paper. Maybe paper 3 and 4 can be more, can actually be congruent with what you figure out in this journey. So, yeah. Yes?
Actually, I already registered for it. My question is, how to receive some information back? Because I just received from the Google forms that it was received. But
Yeah.
we received some message back, something like that.
Absolutely. So for those of you who already registered, you're a priority on the list. I'm just waiting for September 15th for the deadline. So if you're here today, you want to register, there's 7 spots, right? So before September 15th, and then on September 15th, I'll send you the confirmation as well as an intake survey. Yeah? Yes?
Will you repeat this program, or like what's the turn?
The fate of the program, I hope to repeat it if EIT is willing to fund it for another year. But if you think you want to join, this year should be the first year. Come on board. Yeah. We'll see how we do, Martin. Other questions? Yes.
Do you have any recommendations on how far a PhD student should be in the process of
Do I have any recommendations on how far the PhD student should be in this process? No, I think if you're here, then you're ready to partake. I think, what we'll do in the intake survey is we'll actually get a survey of how far along everyone is. And we actually have 5 different mentor groups, 4 in each group. We'll get you connected with a real entrepreneur, right? And then we can divide either by skill level or by level of interest. There's so many variables that really any time during your time at DTN is good. Yeah, and then we'll also tailor it to your entrepreneurship module that you're following as well, right? So we'll make sure you're in at the right place. Yes?
Does it mean that for us as DTN students, like we don't have to pay the tuition fee?
That's correct. No tuition fee for DTNs in this room. Yes, correct.
2 questions. So how many spots do you have? And second one, where else are people joining from? What other backgrounds besides DTN?
Okay, so this year because it's the first year, I'm working on some marketing to get, our mentors will be from outside the DTN, so we're finding people from the EIT Startup Network, and then we're also working with a startup in Munich to provide the mentorship. And in terms of the people, right now we have 1 registration from outside of DTN. So we have 20 spots for DTN, which is funded. And then we're working on corporate sponsorship to fund the externals, because that seems a better business model than getting the payment directly. So we're going around to corporations to see, if they're willing to pay for the people who aren't here, their tickets in as well.
And do you have any idea of how much time investment is this, like how much time investment is required from our side for the training overall? Like
12.
Other than the 3 days that are
12 ECTS, and it's, was it 12 or 6? Okay, I just did the calculation on this on the spreadsheet. Karina, do you remember? Was it 6 or 12? Huh? It was 6. Okay, it was 6. Okay, phew. Okay, so it was 6. We're running the numbers. It works out, so 1 mentorship session, so every week you have contact either with an online module or a mentorship module. So it'll be about 4 hours, half a day per week. Yeah, and that includes actually like the administrative side of actually starting a business, right? So dealing with your business and your government and all that fun stuff. Okay. Got some more brochures here. I'll come around to the back. And if you have questions, you can talk to me at break. Thank you very much.